What is consequentialism? Well, when I'm not busy being your intrepid superhero podcasting Ask RC Jesus Changes Everything guy, I also have a calling as a mild-mannered philosophy professor. And included in my responsibilities is teaching on ethics. And consequentialism is a fairly large umbrella term to describe a number of schools of ethics that have one thing in common. They're all systems that judge the goodness or the badness of a moral decision on the basis of the consequences that flow from it. One of the most famous forms would be utilitarianism, which asks us to make decisions on the basis of that which has the greatest utility or the greatest happiness for the greatest number, still based on what we think the consequences will be of the decision that we make. That's one of them. But there are some significant problems with consequentialism. I reject it outright, in fact. It is certainly the most widely held ethical viewpoint in the world in our day, but it's still, in my judgment, woefully inadequate for at least two reasons, which I will give you. One, consequentialism is built on the idea that we have some capacity to know what the future holds, that we know what the necessary consequences will be that flow from our choices. But we don't. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to have the best consequences. We can't know. We're limited. We're human beings. Lots of bad things come about from decisions that we think will bring good things. And from time to time, good things come from decisions that we think will bring bad things because we don't know. We're limited. You know, when we look to God's law, we are in the ultimate position of being children with a parent with absolute authority and absolute wisdom. God doesn't say do this or do that unless you think this bad thing will happen if you do, unless you think this good thing will happen if you don't. He doesn't invite us to give our counter arguments. And our calling is to know, not only does he know what actually is right and what's wrong, but he knows what's going to happen. We're not responsible for the results of our decisions. We are responsible to be sure that our decisions are in submission to his word. But one does not even need to be a Christian to see this second, just absolutely overwhelming, destructive problem with consequentialism. Like everything else, everything that doesn't acknowledge the existence of a transcendent moral standard, consequentialism simply kicks the can down the road because it says, well, the good is that which brings good consequences. That's using a word in its own definition. What do we call a good consequence? How do we know what a good consequence is? Suppose I had a way to eradicate cancer. Ooh, yeah, that's good, right? Well, the only problem is my solution is to kill everybody. Well, inside a consequential ethic, from that worldview, you don't have a reason to conclude that death is better than life, or life is better than death, cancer is better than health, or health is better than cancer. It doesn't answer the question. It just postpones it. Now, it's certainly true that we may have all sorts of consequences that we hold in common that are things that we want, but that doesn't make them good. Doesn't make them good at all. You have to still come up with a standard to measure whether this consequence or that consequence is better. And saying the better one is the one who brings the better things doesn't help. It doesn't work. because it doesn't have the capacity to define what the good is.